Okay, we're going to turn now to a GMA health alert here. The American Academy of Pediatrics is out with new research finding that kids who get smartphones at age 12 or younger, well, they may be at an increased risk of developing obesity and getting poor sleep. And our medical correspondent, Dr. Darian Sutton, is here with all the details. This is a fascinating study. Tell us about it.
A fascinating one and a concerning one. So this comes after a recent report. It was one of the largest studies on adolescent brain cognitive development, and the results were consistent across the board and really difficult to ignore. I want to show you some of these results. So they found that children who had a smartphone by the age of 12 had an increased risk of depression by 30%. An increased risk of obesity by 40%, and an increased risk of sleep deprivation by up to 60%. And these results were held across the board, regardless of the income of the family, the parental education, the puberty stage of the child, and even if that child owned other things, like a tablet or a computer, for example.
So when, if at all, is the right time to give your kid a smartphone?
I can tell you that there's no right answer for that. I actually have conversations with parents, doctors of young children at this age, and they're all having different answers. So I can just tell people at home that you're not alone. Many people are trying to understand what is the evidence so that they can have the best guidance. I think when you look at this study, it's important to understand that not all smartphones are bad. They have resources, for example, community, education, connection. But when you're trying to understand how to travel that path with your child, I think you can look to the organizations and leading institutions like the American Academy of Pediatrics. They ask you to ask yourself some key questions. What does your child need the phone for? Is your child ready for it? Because every child has a different stage in their development. What are the challenges that your child might have that might make having a phone more difficult? And I think more importantly at the end, how are you going to check in with your child in their growing digital life? You know, a part of this is kind of necessary because phones are an inevitable part of life. So it really is about not only assessing whether or not they're ready, but figuring out how you can travel with them.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to tech CEOs who say, we are literally living through an experiment.
Yes. Yeah.
And now the results are becoming more and more clear about how problematic both the smartphone, but also all of the apps and what kind of access people have, and young people in particular have. What do families do who say, you know what, we are doing the smartphone?
Yeah, you know, I think it's really looking for guidance that's grounded in evidence. And so if you're going to use your smartphone, I think really number one, understanding what plan are you going to have to make sure you use it safely, not only for your child, but also for the rest of your family. And doing certain things, like making sure that you set boundaries, talking to your child about why you're setting those boundaries. Explanations help to keep consistency. Utilizing the parental controls, practicing what you preach is really important here, because every time you pick up your phone, everyone in the house is going to pick up their phone.
You can't be at dinner staring at your phone
we all
and tell
know
your
and
kid
have
not
that
to do
experience.
it.
Exactly, and it's hard to distract from that. And developing things like green time, making zones in the house and time periods where everyone can put their phone down to touch grass, essentially. Get out there, move around, and do things without electronics, I think is really important.
And I know that the study is for kids, but I think that also if you poll adults, we probably have very similar results.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Darian Sutton. And scan the QR code, you see that right there on your screen, to find an online quiz by the American Academy of Pediatrics to help parents decide if their child is ready for a smartphone. Very important, that QR code.